Today we're going to look at an unusual kind of motorsport. It's called stage rallying, and of all the kinds of car racing I've covered, this is probably the most exciting. It doesn't attract too many spectators, though, usually because rallies are held on deserted country roads a long way from population centers. The roads are closed off to the public. Sometimes they race in the dead of night and in all kinds of weather. Rallying is more a sport for the competitors and the manufacturers. For the drivers, it's an unbelievable thrill to hurtle down a country road they've never seen before at an incredible speed. For the manufacturers, it's a chance to prove how tough their cars are, to test out some components and see if they'll last. Today, we're going to look at stage rallying. We're going to see the cars, and we're going to meet the men who sit behind the wheels of these machines just for the thrill of it.
And the girls are out the bingo, and the boys are getting stinko. We think no more of bingo on a Saturday night. The glasses they will tinkle.
Stompin' Tom Connor's song is the perfect welcome to Sudbury, Ontario, and round 2 of the Canadian Rally Championship. The drivers who are here to compete in the annual Winter Rally are about to face a Sudbury Saturday night they'll never forget. The Winter Rally is a classic, the oldest car rally in North America. Many of the young drivers competing here today weren't even born when the British Empire Motor Club ran the first Winter Rally back in 1952. Here's Team Datsun's #1 driver, Randy Black.
Well, rallying is very unique. It is the only form of motorsport that the driver doesn't have an opportunity to go out and practice the roads that he's running on. It takes a different sort of skill, or shall I say an application of skills. Anybody can go out and practice and make a lap perfect on a racetrack. But to go 100 miles up a road, as we're going to be doing today, and never see it in those conditions and have to drive absolutely flat out, it really is a more demanding type of thing on the driver, I feel, than any other form of four-wheeled motorsport.
Taisto Heinonen of Team Toyota was confident he could repeat last year's Winter Rally victory.
I think on the first stages we have to go quite quick and find out what this competition doing, but you can after that, but depends what's happening, then it's possible to hold back or whatever.
Modern rallying is very much a race, with the fastest car and driver coming out on top. But the navigator, or co-driver, still plays an important role.
Well, mainly I have to make sure that we get into the control points on time and that the times through the stages are correct as recorded. Also make sure that we don't hit any of the cautioned areas too quickly. There's several really rough and dangerous spots out there. They'll be marked in the instructions, and I'll make sure that he knows where they are well before they come up.
Do you keep track of the other competitors' times?
Oh, absolutely. At the end of every stage, if we have a chance or wherever there's a break, I will talk to the other top runners to see how we're doing against them and compare scores.
Who are you going to be looking over your shoulder at?
I don't think we really have to look too hard over our shoulder. There's the Nixons are going to be in there. Bjorn Anderson is always fast, and Randy Black could give us trouble too. I think they're more worried about us than we're worried about them, though.
Volvo racer Bo Skowronek agreed.
As far as I'm concerned, if nothing happens to him, he'll win the rally by a big margin today. I understand their average last year was 67 miles per hour on the icy covered roads, and it'll probably go up to 75, 80 miles per hour. For this event going up and probably going down. Will come down in the dark, so it'll be a bit slow. You won't be able to see as well.
Rallying has no clear-cut season. These drivers compete in events all over North America, from the ice and snow of northern Quebec in January to the searing deserts of the American Southwest in August. Rally drivers and their mechanics have to accurately predict the weather and the road conditions in order to set up their cars properly.
Not as fair a chance as anybody else in the competition anyway. The event, I expect, will be much faster than the 2 previous ones we've done this year. One of the reasons being that I gather most of the snow and ice covering has already melted off the road, and from that point of view, we'll be competing on gravel very much like the normal summer events.
6, 5, 4, 3.
The teams are flagged away at 1-minute intervals. Seated first and wearing #1 is the official Toyota entry, a 1980 Corolla SR5 driven by 4-time Canadian champions Taisto Heinonen and Tom Burgess. This is a similar car, a 1977 model entered privately by the dealer in London and driven by Bjorn Anderson. Yet another Toyota, all the way from Calgary. This is the husband and wife team of John and Lynn Nixon. They're an exception to the rule that rallying destroys marriages. A top U.S. team actually divorced over rallying, but continued to compete as a team, much to the dismay of her new husband. Team Datsun Canada has 3 factory cars competing this year, one in each of the 2 production classes, and this beautifully prepared open-class Datsun 510 for Randy Black and Bob Lee of Ontario. Now, the real competition doesn't start here in downtown Sudbury, of course. From here, the 25 starters will enter the first transit stage. On a transit, they follow a clearly defined route, driving sedately and well within the posted speed limits, as they head out to the first racing section, or special stage. It's on these special stages where the rally is really contested. A stage can range in length from 1 kilometer to 200. Its surface can be perfectly smooth tarmac or a rutted kart track. The one thing all stages have in common is that they are closed to normal traffic for the duration of the event. Radio-equipped marshals are positioned at every intersection and driveway along the stage to make sure that no unsuspecting motorist meets a rally car flying over a hill crest at 100 miles per hour. Okay, here comes the master, Taisto Heinonen. As the big cities expand, these rallies are being pushed farther and farther into the hinterland and more onto government and privately owned forestry roads. This year's winter rally was held entirely on roads owned and maintained by the E.B. Eddy Forest Products Company. It's too bad because spectators are missing a great show. Watch Taisto blast through this corner sequence, balancing the car on full power, a classic 4-wheel drift, controlling the car perfectly. It's a beautiful sight.
Always when you win, it's a good feeling, but you know, when you're winning by a second or 2 apart, you know, it feels better, of course. You are fighting against the time, you're fighting against the road, and also you're fighting against the competition. You know, that makes you a good feeling, especially when you're winning. It really feels, you know, now you're working on yourself. Trust on your co-driver, of course you're able to drive faster. And speed what we're going on the corners and intersections in the special stages, they have to hit right on. If he accidentally say the left or the right or turn left or turn right, and that's the opposite turn, we're in trouble.
At the end of each special stage, the car's time is recorded as it crosses the flying finish. The co-driver sees to it that the officials record their proper elapsed time on the scorecard that each team carries. It's the total of these elapsed times, this event has 9 stages, that will decide the winner. At the end of each stage, the drivers compare times.
My total now is 59.44, which puts me 59 ahead of Björn and some behind Taisto. I'm not sure, around a minute. All I know is it's around a minute because it stayed the same since the first 2 stages when I lost the time to him.
I asked Bo Skowronek what it was about rallying that excited him.
The speed, one of the things, and throwing car into the corners and be able to come out, you know, really smooth and in controlled drift. When you're drifting, that's just sensational around the corners that you've never been on before. And, you know, tackle the road in any conditions and always have control of the car. You know, being able to, like here a second, there a second, and just get as much out of yourself and the machine, you know, no matter what you have for a machine. That's a sensation in itself. It just floats. And you can float with the car. It's pretty exciting.
Left 4, into, right 3, into, right 3, flat over brow, into it, left 2, in 200.
Well, on the events where we use pace notes, they're they're designed to get through the stages faster and a lot safer. It's really helpful to know what's coming up before you get there. The pace notes are made by running over the stage at well below rally speeds, getting notes of each individual corner, bend, hazards in the road, brows, writing them down in a legible order. That can be then read at rally speed, so that as I give an instruction, the driver should see that next instruction as he hears it, not pass it. It can be 4 or 5 pages of these things. They all have to be in a nice flowing pattern so that when I start them and finish them, we started at the start control and finished at the finish control. The advantage of knowing where you're going can save fractions of a second on every corner, and there are lots of corners. That's where time saves.
Right 4 over crest. Into a right 4 over crest.
My navigator, Dagord. Once he says something, for example, if he calls out a warning, narrow bridge in 300 meters, you have to believe that it's in 300 meters. If you think it's in 100 meters, you're going to slow down too early. And if you think it's in 500 meters, you're not going to slow it down at all. So what you do is you trust him.
The top-line factory cars are worth $35,000, $40,000, $45,000. So naturally, that's something that not everybody can afford. But the affordable class, and perhaps even the most fun class, from a standpoint of really close competition in numbers, is production. And yes, most people could very much afford to go production class rallying.
You have to get somebody else to pay for your bills. You get somebody to provide you with a car, and somebody provide you with oil, and somebody provide you with lights, and then you go out rallying.
And speaking of sponsors, let's hear from some of ours. The Winter Rally reached its halfway point, and while the drivers took a break, the unsung heroes of motorsport, the mechanics, swung into action. Beside the normal skills of a gifted race car designer and engineer, the perfect rally mechanic would ideally be a fortune teller who would know exactly which spare parts would be needed, and a masochist who loves to toil under terrible conditions, usually for no pay, while being berated by a co-driver with a stopwatch in his hand, yelling, "Hurry up." It would also be helpful if he was a rally driver himself, able to hurl his truckload of tires and spare parts along a complicated route on a critically tight schedule in order to rendezvous with his team. Rally drivers are never happy, always looking for that mechanical advantage that will help them catch up.
Well, at the moment, Bill Allen, crew chief here, is making fresh edges on the sides of this particular tire. This tire's already been used, and the edges have become rounded off, which lessens the grip of the tire for cornering. And what they're doing is using an implement called a tire cutter, which is a very sharp heated blade, in order to make fresh right-angled edges on the sides of the tread. The difference here is that this tire, as a matter of fact, isn't designed for use in snow. The rubber is much softer than a typical ordinary snow tire that one might purchase commercially. It would only last, for instance, on dry tarmac for possibly 1,000 kilometers. The other difference, too, if I can just point the tire over for a second, as you can see, the tread is much more open than a normal street tire. The purpose of this is to give more grip. Also, the softer rubber helps in that respect.
Rally cars start life as standard cars right out of the showroom, and then the crew's set to work on them. First of all, on the front of the car, you'll notice there are 4 huge halogen lamps. They help, obviously, for the nighttime portions of the rally. You can see the 2 standard lamps on the car have already been damaged by stones. Underneath, to protect the engine, we have a piece of armor plating called a sump guard. It stops stones from going up through the oil pan and, obviously, stopping the car. It has about 180 horsepower, weighs about 2,200 pounds. They've saved some weight by replacing the hood and the trunk lid with fiberglass facsimiles. Now, let's have a look at the tires on this car. These special Dunlop tires are made just for rallying. The big treads on them hold the car in tight corners. Let's have a look at the inside, the business department of a rally car. First of all, the driver has a standard full-face helmet, but you'll notice that he has an intercom connected to it. That's so the driver and the co-driver can talk to each other over the racket of the engine during a rally. On the inside, first, a roll cage. Down both sides by the doors and around the roof. It protects the drivers. The seats,
high sides on the seats. A lot of lateral movement in a car when you're traveling at great speed. This holds the driver in the seat and stops him from moving around. You can see the padding on the inside of the roll cage here. It's got a standard 5-speed gearbox. Let's see the equipment on the co-driver's side of the car now. On the floor, there's a very stiff brace for his feet. This gives you an idea of the kind of punishment he must endure. Beside the brace, a warning triangle and a special container. In addition to having to read his notes, the co-driver has a lot of equipment he must handle as well. First of all, there's a CB radio, in constant touch with their service crew so they can alert them of any problems with the car. Then he has some very sophisticated computerized navigational equipment. This measures the distance the car is traveling down to 1/100th of a mile. With the sun setting, the crews line up to start yet another special stage. Quick repairs are not restricted to the service areas. Sometimes in the middle of a stage, problems can arise. Bjorn Anderson and Doug Ort demonstrate.
If we have a flat, we pull over as fast as we can if it's not too far into the stage. I jump out. The first thing I do is I run back, grab the tire wrench, and loosen the lugs. While I'm doing that, Bo is getting the jack out and setting it into place. While the car is actually going up in the air, I'm taking the tire off. Bo is now brings the other tire over. We put it on, and I tighten up the nuts. While the nuts are tightened, Bo lets the car down and throws the jack back into the trunk, and we're back and on our way, hopefully, in just a minute or 2 minutes.
After 6 of 9 special stages, Taisto Heinonen held a comfortable 2-minute 5-second lead over Randy Black, who in turn was managing to hold off Bjorn Anderson in 3rd place. In 4th spot and leading his production class was veteran Bo Skowronek in his big Volvo. As the rally went into the last 3 long night stages, it looked like Taisto could coast to another win.
You have to more or less drive in night times over your limit. When you arrive off the road or something is happening on night times, because you do that over your limit, and if bad corner happening, then accident happening most of the time. But nighttime driving, it's very, very tiring because you have to concentrate much harder than but this daytime.
Awake and you keep yourself going just by the competition. But if the competition isn't very tight and you're starting to relax, then you get tired, and that's when it starts getting dangerous. You can go off the road and do all kinds of mistakes.
It's Saturday night in Sudbury, and the first man to arrive back at rally headquarters is Randy Black. Randy and Bob Lee inherited the lead when Taisto, running first on the road, flipped his Toyota on top of a snowbank. Finishing second, 2 minutes and 9 seconds behind, are Bjorn Anderson and Bob Lee, their private entry from London. They stopped long enough to roll Taisto's car back onto its wheels. Saskatoon's Bo Skowronek and Terry Epp piloted their 1981 Volvo to 3rd place overall and first in their production class.
Halfway through, maybe? Did you about
halfway through B2, yeah. We rolled it at 2.69 or so, same stage.
Same
we rolled
stage.
How
did you roll it? How did you manage to come in so soon?
pushed him back on his wheels and kept going.
Yeah, and then they stopped me and helped me off the tank. We get going.
Well, what, Bjorn put you back on your wheels?
Yeah, and these guys...
you couldn't move?
I couldn't move, no
we
way.
went by, got the chain out, cable out, and pulled them out.
As the rally drivers head for the bar and some rest, the scoring crews set about the tedious task of adding up all the times. Even after 12 hours of rallying, sometimes it's only a matter of seconds that separates one car from another.
12, 34.
When all the times have been checked and rechecked, the results are official. It's Black in first place, followed by Anderson and Skowronek. Bryn Cook has won the small engine production class.
2 hours.
The finish of a rally is really in keeping with the nature of the sport. Strictly for the competitors. No photographers or cheering fans. Just good friends, a cold beer, and a quiet place to sit and rehash the day's dramas. The rally no sooner ends than the psyching out begins for the next event. Tales of engine problems, limiting top speed to 125 miles per hour, and promises of a sure victory next time. Rally drivers are happy here, and we hope you've enjoyed meeting them on a Sudbury Saturday night.
Boys are